Greetings everybody! This lesson I'm going to show you a way that you can easily visualize three-dimensional rotations using the right-hand rule and show you how you can use it along with the rotate command to easily perform three-dimensional rotations. As you can see, I have an object in front of us that I have created to demonstrate these rotations with. You can see in the viewport that we have a gold brick which is 3 units long on the x-axis, 2 units long on the y-axis, and then 1 unit tall along the z-axis. Notice the simple code here on the left where I create the box, color the box, and then display it. Also, notice that our box is at its default position with one vertex at the origin and then edges along each of the axes. Now I want to demonstrate rotation along the z-axis using the rotate command and introduce the right-hand rule to you. I'm just going to add one line of code here. It will be rotate, all caps, my box 45. By default, the rotate command rotates around the z-axis for three-dimensional objects, so we are performing a 45-degree rotation around the z-axis with this command. But in which direction? The right-hand rule can help us determine this. What I want you to do so I can explain this better is that I need you to hold out your right hand in front of you with your thumb pointing towards the sky. Literally, it will help you understand. Imagine you're grabbing the z-axis, this blue arrow, with your right hand with your thumb pointing in the same direction as the arrow. Your fingertips are wrapped around the axis. The direction that your fingertips are pointed is in the counterclockwise direction. Remember that with the rotate command that a positive degree number makes a counterclockwise rotation. So when using the right-hand rule to visualize rotations, just imagine grabbing the axis with your right hand with your thumb pointing in the positive direction along that axis. Then remember that positive number rotations go in the same direction that your fingers are pointing, counterclockwise, and negative number rotations do it in the opposite direction. So let's run our program to see our rotation. Exactly as we used our right hand to predict, a counterclockwise rotation in the direction of our fingers was performed. Let's do a negative rotation with a negative 45 and put it in the rotate command. This should produce a 45-degree clockwise rotation. Let's run it and see. Like we thought, a 45-degree clockwise rotation was performed from the box's starting position around the z-axis. Let me reset our box's rotation by putting a 0 as the rotation degree measure and running the program. Now I want to show you how to rotate around the x and y axes. The rotate command takes a third parameter to specify the axis. We can perform a rotation around the x-axis by putting in a 45-degree measure and then a capital X as the third parameter to specify the axis. Time for your right hand to come out. Once again, imagine grabbing the axis, but this time grab the red arrow representing the x-axis. Thumb towards the arrow. Your fingers are pointing in a counterclockwise direction around this axis. Remember that a positive number should make a rotation in the direction that your fingers are pointing. So let's run the program and see. Once again, our right hands predicted it. 45 degrees as our fingers were pointing in the counterclockwise direction. Let's reset our box's rotation with a 0 rotation and try it again around the y-axis. Let's put in this time a negative 45 and then a capital Y to specify a rotation around the y-axis. Now let's position ourselves so we can visualize the rotation. This green arrow is the y-axis. So let's again grab that y-axis with our right hand. Our fingers are pointing in the positive direction, but we have a negative number in here. So our box will rotate in the clockwise direction around the green y-axis, the opposite direction our fingers are pointing. So let's run our program to see our y-axis rotation. And we have just performed a clockwise rotation around the y-axis. So to sum up this lesson, remember a few things. Remember that the z-axis is the default axis around which the rotate command functions. Also remember that rotations can be made around the x and y axes by putting a capital X or Y as the third parameter of the rotate command. Most importantly, remember how to use the right-hand rule. It will help you predict your rotations much better. First, identify your axis of rotation. Second, imagine grabbing it with your thumb pointing in the positive direction on that axis. And then 3, remember the positive values mean rotating in the direction that your fingers are pointing, or counterclockwise, and negative values do the opposite.